Hello guys, welcome back. So in this tutorial we are going to start work on the stories. So let's just start work on that. Come here to the layout and right click on the layout, new layout resource file, and the name of this layout will be story underscore item. Story underscore item. Now this will be the layout we will design for the displaying the stories, okay? And also we will add now create another layout resource file for adding the stories. So anyways, let's just complete this first. So it will be of 60 dp and the height will be wrap content and margin from the start will be 10 dp. And now the next thing is to add the circle image view for displaying the profile image of user, the user who has updated the story basically. So it will be of 55 dp. Same here, 55 dp. Let's just close this first. And now CIV border color. And let's add this, so the color will be just like in Instagram. You guys see the red color. If you have not seen the story of your friend, then it appears, a round circle basically. So we have to design like that anyway. So now let's just add that color F23B5A. CIV border width 3dp. Let's add a source to it so that we can see how it appears. Source is by name profile. Here you can see it just like that. Instead of 2dp, 3dp, let's just add 2dp, and gravity for layout will be center. Margin from the top 5dp, and let's give ID to this. So the ID will be story underscore image. So this circle image view we will display in case if the story has not been seen by an online user, okay? And now we will add another one, that is one. Let's say you view a story, then we have to remove this red kind of thing from it. So first of all, let's just change this color to AF. Okay, just like this gray one, okay? That is the image has been seen. Now we can give it name as story image underscore seen. Story image seen. And just to see if it is at the right place, let me just write here on, and here you can see it. It will appear at the same place. By the way, we will accept this through Kotlin programming language, okay? For code, remove this visibility from here, and this subgreen view will be invisible by default. Now the last thing is to display a username. So for that, well, we need to add a text view, which will be wrap content. Let's close this. And now the ID for this will story username. And now let's add text. So it will appear like this. Gravity will be center. So we will lay out gravity. You can see it now. And by the way, the max line for this will be 1, okay? That is, we will not execute like this. That is 1 line and 2 line. It is not right. So max line will be 1. And the color, basically for the text color, will be color and be dark. That's it. Now let's just create our second layout. So layout, new layout resource file. The name of this will be add underscore story underscore item. Let's just come here quickly. So the width for this will be also 60 dp, and the height will be the content, and margin start 10 dp will be margin start. And let's quickly add a validity of layout here, which will be 50 dp and 50 dp. The layout gravity will be center. Margin from top will be 5 dp. And now in here inside this figurative layout, we need to add basically just like the way we did here for the seen and unseen. Okay, just copy these two circle image views, come back to your story and paste that here, and it will be width will be 45, and also here change it to 45. Remove this to also, first of all, let's just change the ID for this. So let's give it the same ID. I mean, we will just display the image here and we will not add any event on that. That is any click event on it. Because in this second image view, we are going to add the add button, which is the plus icon. On that icon, when a user click, we will allow a user to add a story or see his own stories. So one thing which we need to do is remove this layout gravity and second one, so with height, and let's give it as align parent top to true, and the center horizontal to true, and that's it. Now come here to the second circle image view, and first of all here we have to add icon edge, and which you can see here, and it will be of 20 dp, also 20 dp. So remove this thing gone from here and also these two. Now here we can say align parent bottom to true, align parent and to true. It will appear like this. Here you can see it. Now let's just add some background to it. So background for it will be color white. Okay, starting from the Android, okay, and Android color white, just like this. Here you can see it. And by the way, I think it is binary. So anyways, I mean the background will be color white, and this is the result that we got here. And one thing which we need to do is to add a text view on which is basically the add story text. Also make sure to change the ID for this, which is story and add. And for this text view, the ID will be add story underscore text. And text color will be color primary dark. And the layout gravity will be center. Max line 1. Let's add text here, which will be add story. Since we will be displaying these layout for our home fragment, so for that we have to go to our home fragment.xml file first, and we have to add another recycler view. So as you can see, this is our recycler view, and using two recycler views, so we have to use the nested scroll view. So let's just add this nested scroll view. It will be match parent or content. Let's close this, and inside this, first of all, let's just give ID to this. So nested scroll view, NSV, and it will be below our app bar layout. So let's just cut this from here, paste that here. just like this. Now what we're going to do is the recycler view which we have here, okay, for displaying the post, I mean the picture of user, we will move that inside over this nested scroll view. So let's just add this here. Okay. And now we need to add another recycler view for displaying the stories. Okay, and also to access our these story and story item layout in case if there is any story available for the story item, but this will be display even if there is no story available, so that the user can add any story. So anyway, we just copy paste this recycle view, and also let's just change now the ID for it. So there's over is for the stories, so give it ID recycle view story. So match parent wrap content and match parent wrap content. So these are our two recycler views. Now what we need to do is, before doing that, we have to add a linear layout, basically a vertical linear layout, so that a story will appear here, okay, and then in a vertical position, the photos and all the images, the second, which is basically pointing toward the second one, which is the word for displaying the post, the second recycler view. So let's just quickly add a linear layout, and it will be match parent type content, and make sure to add the orientation for this to vertical. And once you do that, let's just close this and then paste these two recycler views inside this linear layout. Now here you can see it for displaying the stories, for displaying the photos and images and all these stuffs. So make sure that you get a design like this, okay, just like you can see it here. So once you do that, the next thing is to go to the home fragment and to have this recycler view. So we have fragments, home fragment, and then here we have to come here to our own create view, and after this we can just get quickly our recycler view. So recycler view, now we have to differentiate between this, so let's give it name as recycler view story. Then it is of type recycler, and let's initialize this with a null. Now just for the time saving, I am going to copy and paste that here. But we have to do these changes carefully, okay? Make sure to change this recycler view with recycler view story view.findView by dr.id and the ID for our this one ID is recycler view story. So make sure to do these changes. And the next thing is linear layout manager. Let's give it name to linear layout manager 2, and also linear context, and then make sure to do the changes here. Linear layout manager 2, linear layout manager 2, and then also here. Now we have to create another adapter for our stories, okay, because our stories will have many features like the story scene and the right click and the left click, right click, on which we can go. If a user click on the left, right click, on the left side of mobile phone, then we will display basically the previous activity, and if the user click on the right side, on the phone, just like you guys see in Instagram, okay? So we will have a complex features there and events. So for that, we will need basically an adapter, so we can write a clean code, okay? So anyway, so for that you'll be needing a list, basically that adapter that you will create. Now we have to pass just like we do for the other things, that is for the images and for the comments, etc. Just like we created an adapter, you will do the same here for the stories. So let's just create, first of all, for that we have to create a file by the name, right click on adapter, new, and let's just give it name as, this one, Kotlin file class. First of all, let's give it name as a story adapter. And then click OK. So this is our story adapter. And now come back. Let's just quickly add this thing here. Story adapter. It will be of type story adapter. Initialize it with null. And also it will receive two parameters. One is the context and the second is the list, in which we will receive all the stories here on our home fragment that we will pass now to the story adapter. So let's just complete. Now please carefully define this, use this same variable's name, because we're using the data by these same names, okay? So make sure to use the same name. Image URL, the image that you will store in the database for the stories, basically. Story image. Initialize this with a null. And the time start, at which time, basically that's on, since you know that we will do that for 24 hours. After 24 hours, that will be deleted automatically. So let's give it name as time start, type long, and we have to initialize this with a 0. So just copy, paste that here, and then times end. Time end long equals to 0. Then we have to see story ID. And let me repeat this again for you guys. Please use the same spellings, okay? Because we will be using the data by the same names in the database. So if you use other than, maybe you get confused and your app will crash. That situation. Initialize this with null. So that's it. Now let's just create a constructor. No parameters, which means the default constructor, then constructor with parameters. Select all, click OK, just like this. And then we have to define the setter and getter for it. So for the time saving, I'm going to the first, and from here, I'm going to first copy this get first and come back to the story and paste that here. And now we have our first one, which is image URL. So we can say get image URL string type, and it will return the image URL. Now also let's define the getter for all the other variables. So we have the second one, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Paste it 4 times. Then we have the get time start, which is of Boolean type. Sorry, long type, not Boolean. If I show you here, you can see it. And then the get time end. It is also long type. And make sure to do the changes here also, okay? For the time start, we have variable time start. For the time end, we have a variable by name time end. And then we have the second class, which is get story ID. So let's change this to get story ID and have the variable story ID. Then the last one is the get user ID. Get user ID and pass the variable, which is my name user ID. That's it. And now we have to set the setters. So for that, let's come here to the post and copy this any set function from here. Now you will change it. Let's come here, come back to the story, and then paste that here 5 times, since we have 5 variables. And now let's just modify it. So we have set image URL. Image URL, and it is of type string. Okay. Image URL. Image URL. And then we have the set time start. So we have variable time start long. Start time start, and then the set time end. So time and time end. And then we have the set story ID. So story ID, and then the set user ID, That's it. Now come back to the story wrapper and pass the story model class to it, which is this one, okay? Story model class. Add a colon here, and then in the next, see RecyclerView dot add. In here we have to pass our view holder that we will create now. Let's come here to the post adapter. From here we have to copy something. Copy this inner class from the post adapter. Copy this one and come back to the story adapters. Instead of writing it, let's just paste it here. And then you have to modify it. So it will be inner class view holder. So first of all, we have our story item. Okay, let's add a comment. Now, you will also learn now that it's how to add two layouts. Okay, here you can see one is the story item and add story item. How to add and access two items, or you can say how to use two resources on one single Kotlin file. You will learn that also in this video tutorial. So anyways, come back to the story adapter and let's give it a story item. And on the story item, we have two things. You should see image and that name. So let's just remove this. So we have an image view there. So remove these things. So we have an image view, which is basically for the story. See, let's give it name as story image C. And it is of type image. Let's initialize this with a null. And then we have our text view, which is for displaying the username. Story username. Text view. Also, we have, and by the way, this circle image view. Okay, so make sure to change this to circle image view. And one thing is, we have two circle image view. One is the story image, the other one is story image C. So let's just add another circle image view quickly. And this is our story image. Circle image view. So let's just first add this and then we can move to the others. So we have, let's just copy paste this quickly. First of all, remove all of these others that we do not need, and now make sure to change the IDs for it. So for the story image scene, let's just story image scene, we have the same ID with the story image scene, by the way, and story image scene, and then we have other one, this one, which is story image. Copy, paste that here. And for the story username, we have ID, story username. So story username. This is all about our this story item layout. Now we have to add another layout, which is our add story. So add story item layout, okay? Now from there we will access two things, and that is our circle image view for displaying the image of a user and the add buttons, on which we will basically set an event, which is a click event. So I'm going to copy this and let's just change the name for it. So for the text we have add story text, and we have a circle image view for the story underscore plus underscore btn, which is an image view basically, not a circle image view. But anyways, let me tell you one thing. Even if you change this to circle image view, it will work, okay? Because both types, represent an image view. Even if it is circular or not circular, it will not crash your app, okay? So this is just the thing which I wanted to say. Anyways, let's just cast this quickly. So just copy any tool from here, paste that here, remove their IDs. We have story plus btn, and we have add story text. So for the story plus button, we have our ID, which is story add. So add the ID here, story add, and then we have text with add story text. So since you know that we have two layout, we are accessing two layouts on all this adapter, now we have to, add a get item view type built-in function, which will, on the basis of which we can basically get the ID of story item and add story item files, okay, the source file, and then on the basis of which we can display it. So for that, what we're gonna do is let's just quickly add that get item view type, this one. Remove the return type for it, and here we need to add a condition if, which is int position, okay? You can change this variable to I or anything you want, okay? So if the position, which basically represent the position of the story item and add story item is source, okay? It will represent that. So if the position becomes equals to 0, then return 0, otherwise it will return 1 also. Now let me tell you, at the 0th position we have this story item, okay? If there is any story available, then it will represent this one also at the side, just like you guys see your friends' stories, okay? But in case if any story is not available from your friends, then it will represent this layout whose index is 1, okay? The index of this one is 0, and the index of this add story, which will represent this, okay, here your profile picture, then the shared icon and add story text, which is basically, that will be available always, even if this first one is not available. If there is no story available from your friend, then add story resource or case design will be there, which is this one, on which a user will click and add his own story, upload his own stories. So I hope you understand the whole idea. Now once you do that, let's just come here quickly, and here we have to pass the view holder. By the way, this is on our story adapter dot view holder. Now once it is done, you can just click here. Okay, click here, and when this red will appear, anyways, it is not appearing. So anyways, let's just add that quick. So you know that we have a built-in function which is on create view holder, on which basically we access these two layouts. Remove the comment from this one, and here let's just declare our access these two layouts. And for the time saving, I'm going to the story adapter. From here, I'm going to just copy this code that we will modify it according to our need here. So just paste that here. And first of all, view and context add story item, return view order view. So as you know that here we are accessing two items, basically two layouts, which is the story item and story. And I also explained the whole story how it works. So we need to add on the basis of our get this get item view type, which returns the scene story is story item built and the edge story item. So we have to take care of that. We have to say that if the view type, which basically represent int view type, which basically get that position. And I already told you, if your friend store is available, then we have to. Now, one thing which I want to clear here is that when I said that if the position is 0, I return 0, okay? Now, at the 0th position, we are basically doing this thing, okay, which is the add story. All the story that I explain is, right. Just by mistake, tell the index number wrong. At the 0th, we have the add story, and at the story item will be 1. Anyways, just come here. If the view type become equals to 0, then at the 0 index, we have to display our add story item view, okay? So just pass that, which is add story item. Else, we will display our other layout, which is story item. And by the way, in Kotlin, we can also, it will give you some suggestions. If you want, you can change this. Here you can write return if view type equals to, then return this. So return the, remove the return statement from here. Else means return this, okay? We as a whole write the return here. So in Kotlin, you can write the if else like this also. So once you do that, the next thing is to get item count. And here we have to return the size of our story dot size. And the next thing is to onBind view holder, where we can add events on our layout controllers, that is the text views, buttons, etc., and also to display our things. So since you know that we have not yet uploaded or write a backend code for uploading the stories, so we will not write anything here for now. But yeah, in the next tutorial we will do that. But for now, let's just say real story equals to end story and pass this int position, okay, to it. Now, in some cases, in your Android Studio, maybe it give by default the variable to I, okay? Then all you will need is just to pass this I variable here, okay? It doesn't matter whatever the variable name is. Some people just get confused, okay? So this is just the variable name. Now come back to the home fragment, and here we were about to create this where we left. Let's just complete this story list, which will be of type list. Pass the story model class. It will be mutable list. Initialize this with a null. And now come down and just like we did for the post list, we will do the same. Okay, it will be a little bit different. So let's just copy these 3 lines of code and paste that down here. And here we have to change it to the story list. So story list equals to array list, and then story adapter equals to context, and make sure to in an instance of our story adapter, the context is by representing by it, and then story list as array list story border class. And then we have a recycler view by the name. By the way, here we again forgot to change the recycler view name with recycler story, okay, for our recycler view story. So make sure to confirm this, okay? Recycler view story, and recycler view story, layout manager 2 and 2. So make sure to do this, okay? To not mix any things. So anyways, recycler view story dot adapter equals to story adapter. Now here we have to create a function, and as I told you, we have not yet upload any story, but we are going to add a story, create a function in which we will retrieve the stories from the database. Because if you do not add that function in this tutorial, then we will not get these layouts, okay? Only this layout for now, as you know that on our homepage. So we have to add that code now. Retrieve stories. So let's just create this function down below. So you can say a private and retrieve stories. And we need to create a reference to the story node, on which we will also upload our stories to the database. But in the next tutorial, for now we are just retrieving the story reference, and the reference will be story, which will be our parent node for saving all the stories in it. And then we can say story reference dot add value event listener object value event list on data change on cancelled, and then inside the on data change, let's give this name as data snapshot, which will be of type data snapshot. First of all, let's create a variable by the name time current, which will get the time, which will store the time, So system, to get the current time, we can say system dot current time millis. Then story list as rep story dot clear. You have to make sure that this, and then we have to add the stories if there is any story available in the database at this reference. Story. First one is the image URL, so we have to pass null here. Then the time start 0. Now this represents our model class, okay? Here we have 5 variables. Let me just, these things, okay? If you see image URL, time start, time end, story ID, user ID. So we have to pass, the first one is the image URL, which you are passing null, and then the time start 0, time end 0, and then the story ID, and then the user ID, which we can get using Firebase Auth dot get instance dot current user dot uid. So yeah, now by using for loop, we can say ID in following list. As you know that we will display only the stories from the following list. That is the people that we are following, okay? Which basically represent our friends. Or you can say the people whom we are following. So anyways, from the following list, you will get the IDs first. So we can say our count story 0. Then we can say our story for snapshot data snapshot dot child ID dot children. And if you get this third line here you can see type match, which is require string found post. So make sure to add here dot to string, okay? Dot children, and inside this for loop, you can say story equals snapshot dot get class dot java, and we have to add a condition here that will check the time. So we can say time current is greater than story dot get time start and time current is less than story dot get time end. Then we have to, if any story is expired, then obviously we will not retrieve that. So anyways, we are going to add this count story, which is a counter that will just count that how much stories we have. So count story plus plus. If count story, if any story available, okay, so only then we can retrieve it. So if count story is greater than 0, which means that we have any story available, okay, which is not expired yet. So then we are going to add that story to our story list. Dot add story. And then you can say story adapter dot notify data set changed. Now once you write this, now let's just test the application to see if these layouts are displaying on our home screen or not. Now one thing, till the Gradle build is running, let me tell you one more thing is basically on our story adapter, when we get this get item view type, now we add this because we want to differentiate between the story item and add story item. And let me tell you again, the 0th index represent our add story item and this 1 index represent our story item. And on the basis of which we are getting, or you can say accessing these two views here, okay, add story item, 0th index, and at the 1th, else means obviously other than 0, so it means 1 story item. So what it means basically is that when we will be displaying the stories on our home page, okay, home fragment story, just like you guys see in Instagram. On the basis of this, we will, if the story belongs to our friends, then it will appear at the side, okay, on which user will click, then we will just display that story. And in case, if the user click on the add story, again, let's say the user upload his own stories also, okay, and he click again on the add story, then there we will display a pop-up, or you can say a dialog, which will represent two options, okay, to view his currently uploaded story, okay, the story that he already uploaded, or if the user want to basically add another story, okay. So I hope you get the whole idea why we add this view type here and why we add these conditions here. This is, important to explain, otherwise you guys will get confused. That is why we add that. So hopefully now you understand this. So the app is running now successfully and the app stops. We have another error. And it says Java language cannot be cast to model host. And it is the same problem basically that we write dot to string on the home, okay, inside this when we say id dot to string, because id represents a string type, which is this one, okay. And let's just move this dot to string from here, and now for this we have to check our following list, which is mutable list in here. And this is not mutable list, change the type of it to string, because as you know that following list contain the IDs of the users whom we are following, okay, so it must be string type. So now count down and you will see that it will automatically erase that error, okay, here you can now see it. So make sure to do these changes to the following list is the type string. So now let's just run the application again, because hopefully you can see that the type mismatch, okay, it requires string and we are passing the post type to it, as this list represents the post. So hopefully you understand this. Once you do these changes, now our app is running again, and here we go. Here you can see it. And here you can see, we just see this ad. It is just the design pro. Let's just come here and here change the text size, because by default, I think it's your 14 size. So we need to give it 12 SP. Okay, here you can see it. Now let's just run again. So the app is running now again. And here you can see it. Add story. And this is incredible. So yeah, that's it for this video. And in the next video, we will allow a user to click on this add icon. And we will send the user to the add story activity that we will create in the next video. You will write the backend code in Kotlin to upload the story pictures and details and the time, all these things to the real-time database in Firebase Database and Firebase Storage. So anyways, that's it for this video, and see you guys in the next video. Bye for now. Hello guys, welcome back. So in this video tutorial, we are going to allow a user to add, or you can say upload a story, okay? When you will click on this add icon. Also, the next thing that we will be doing is to retrieve and display the user picture here. So for that, first of all, what we need to do is, let's just close the story adapter for now, and let's just create an activity. Right click on your package name, new activity, an empty activity, and let's just give this activity a name as add story activity. So our activity has been created successfully, and come here now, and first of all, let's just change this constant layout. So it just involve in little bit loading. Anyways, change this to relative layout. And the next thing is come back to add story activity. Now here we will write a code to upload allow a user to go to mobile phone gallery, select a picture and upload it. So for that, we will use the same thing, just with little bit changes, we have add post activity. Go to the add post activity, and let's start from here. So we have copy these things, okay? Control C, come back to the add story activity, and test that here. Now we have already write that code, so there is no need, to waste time on writing it again. We just need to copy paste it and do the changes that is required. And also, copy this, Control C, come back to the add story and paste it inside the onCreate. And one thing which we need to do is remove this save new post button line, okay? So we have a storage reference. Let's change the name of this to storage story reference. So storage reference, and it will be, we are going to create a separate folder inside the storage bucket, or you can say inside Firebase Storage by the name story pictures, and inside the story pictures, our all story pictures will be saved. And we are on the add story activity. And just change the ratio of this to 9:16, since it will be vertical images, in the stories, long images. Then the next thing is to basically check the extension, but there is no need of it. Let me just, here we have the connectivity result that we need. And here we need to call a function which is upload story. If we get the image successfully and we store it inside the image URI data type variable, we will call this function which is by name upload story. And in case if any error occur, then you can write else statement and display a cost message that is something gone wrong or any error message you want to display to the user. So let's create this function. So come back to the at first, and here we have this function upload image. Now from here, you have to check if the image URL is null. I mean the same code. Let's just copy this code that we write here inside it, copy it and come back to their story and paste that here. Now let's just come here and we need to do the changes. So if image URI is null, you are displaying this text, which is to please select image first, okay? And then we do not have any text field, so remove this second line of code. Else, okay? So if this is not null, if the image is not null, it means the image has been selected. We are displaying the progress dialog, which is adding story. Please wait, we are adding your story. Adding or uploading, whatever the message you want to display the user, you can write here. So we have storage, story, picture, reference, and then upload task. Make sure to import this, which is this first one, continuation com Google Android GMS tasks. Okay, also import this on completion. And let me just confirm one thing, upload task, rest of thing is the same. The task is successful. We are assigning the URL to my URL string type variable. And then here we need to basically do the changes. I mean, when saving the URL to the database. So for that, we have a parent node story, okay? And I told you guys to use the same names because we are retrieving the number of stories on our home fragment by the same reference, which is story, okay? So please make sure to use the same node names also. Otherwise, you will get confused and maybe your data is not be retrieved from the database in case. Now, as you know that on the home fragment, we have added the condition which will only retrieve the stories whose are within the 24 hour. I mean, if, as you can see, if the time current is greater than the time start and if the time current is less than the time end, only then we increment and we just, at the counter, that is how much stories we have, and we are adding to the list, which is our story list. So here, we need to basically get the time end first. So we can say, well, time end equals to system.current time. And then increment it till the 1 day. That is, let's say, now is the time, let's say Wednesday, 12 a.m. Okay, I am, let's say, uploading a story. Okay, so it will be stored in the database, and we are adding the time end, so we have to increment up to 1 day. That is, next day, 12 a.m. my story will be expired. Okay, and we will not retrieve that and display it on the home page for a user. As you know that the stories is basically all the stories from the followings. I mean, you can simply say our friends. So in order to add 1 day, we have to add 6, 4, and 5 times 0. Okay. Now this will add an increment of 1 day. Let me add a comment here, 1 day. So it will add 1 day later. It will add an increment of 1 day, which is the time end. And we have already added condition, which we'll check here. So anyways, this is the time end, and the time start is basically the time at which the user will upload. So we can get that easily by using the server value timestamp. So anyways, we need to now create a hash map, which will be by the name story map. Let's just place the values with it. So story map The first one we have is the user ID. Now these are the same names that we used in our model. So make sure. That's why I told you guys to use the same names, okay? User ID or uploading the user ID, for adding the user ID. And to get the user ID, we have to get it using the Firebase Auth.current user.uid. Then the second thing is the time start. So this is the user ID, then we have the time start, and in order to get the time start, we can just say server value dot timestamp, and then we have the time end, which we already get in the variable by the name time end. Then the image. For the image, we have a variable by the name image URL. So image URL, my URL, okay, in which the image URL is stored. And then the last thing is basically the story ID. So the story ID is story ID, and the story ID is basically our this random key which we create at the story reference, okay? So reference, which means story.push.key. It will create a key, a unique key basically, and it will store inside this variable story ID. So this variable contains the story ID. And move this past the story ID here also. Now, if you get this red line, okay, which most of you guys will not get, it basically says that to convert this to string, okay, because the story ID is a string. We have to convert this thing to a string. So let's just add dot to string here. That's it, okay. And then story ID dot to string. Or instead of this, you can even remove this dot to string from here. You can add this here. Just cut this, add round brackets, and then we can say dot to string. It will work in this way also. So anyways, reference.charge story ID update children story map, and we are only head story activity, and once the story is updated, we want to send you to the main activity, start activity, and finish. Progress dialog dot dismiss. So yeah, that's it. And now let's just go back to our story adapter. And here you have to add a click listener and come here inside the on-bind view holder. So by using this view holder type instance, we can say holder dot item view dot set on click listener, and then here in here we have to write an intent for sending the user from the for user click on that add icon, we are going to send the user from the home to our add story activity. Context dot start activity, and by the way, we'll have to pass the user ID alongside with it. So we can say intent dot put extra user ID story dot get user ID. This is just for now. I mean, obviously we will add some conditions when we will be retrieving and displaying the stories of other from the other person, our friends, that is from the followings. But for now, we are just sending the user to the add story activity, and we do not need this. We are not receiving this here, but we will be needing this maybe in the next tutorial, okay? So that's why. The next thing is also to retrieve and display user information, user picture on the add story image view. So for that, what we're going to do is, I think on the user adapter, we have already created a function by the name get user info, not here. It is maybe on the profile fragment, I guess. Yes, this one, private fun, user info. Just copy this function. Control C, close this, come back to the story adapter. And on the story adapter at the bottom, let's just paste this. Now this function will receive parameters. One is the view holder, which will be of type view holder, comma. The second one is the user ID, which will be of string type. And the third parameter, if needs, is the position, which will be of integer type. So we create a reference, user reference to the user's node, where we have to pass this user ID, which we receive in this method as a parameter, and then user reference, add value event listener. If this exists, then we pick console.get.load user.getImage. We place hold into our view holder dot story image, and remove the remaining things. Okay, so we are displaying this. Otherwise, if the position is not equals to 0, as you know that at 0th position, it means that this is an online user and he is going to see his, the add story item layout that we created. And other than 0, it means the other user's stories. So for that, what we're gonna do is copy this, and we can just paste that here, and story photo scene, story image scene. And also we have to display the story user name alongside with that. By the way, in Kotlin, we can also add just text user dot get user name, and then we have to call this function user info here in our onBind view holder. We can just call that here user info and pass the parameter to it, view holder, then the story dot get user ID and the position. So yeah, that's it. Now let's just run the application. So the app is running now successfully. Here you can see it will display your image, the user who is online basically, okay? So Muhammad Ali is online now and display the image here. So let's just quickly click on this add icon. So let's just select any picture. So here you can see this is the crop image feature. Let's just select and then click on crop. Adding story, please wait. We are adding your story. Post uploaded successfully. By the way, you can change the post message to your choice, okay? Now if we just go to the database, here you can see we have story, okay? Then the unique key for each story information, image URL, story ID, the time end and time start, okay? These figures basically represent time. Hopefully you know about this. And then we have the user ID. If we go to the storage, here you can see we have the story pictures. If I show you, then this is the image that we just uploaded. So yeah, and as I told you, if you want, you can change the trust messages on the add story activity, which is basically, easy thing to do. This thing. Okay, instead of just saying post uploaded, since you know that in a story, so we can say that story has been uploaded successfully. So yeah, in this tutorial, we just allow user to upload and add story to the Firebase Storage and to the Firebase Realtime Database. Now the next thing is that in the next tutorial, we will retrieve, we have already retrieved, adding the stories on the home fragment. In the previous tutorial, when we say here at the bottom, we have already added that to the story list. Now in the next video, we will just display it, okay, here on this, here on our, this RecyclerView for me, displaying the stories. So yeah, hopefully you understand everything. So yeah, see you guys in the next video. Bye for now. Hello guys, welcome back. So in this tutorial, we are going to, first of all, we are going to create a story activity where we will basically display the story image and the total number of views, that is how many people have seen your story alongside your delete button. Okay, this is for an online user. That is, let's say I'm an online user and I see my own story. Now for the other user, will just see the story image. Okay, so yeah, just right click on your package name. That's just completed. You will understand it. Okay, and let's create an empty activity, and the name of this activity will be story activity. So activity.kt. First of all, we will go to the XML file, which is our activity story.xml file of this activity that we created. So it has been created successfully. And now let's just go to the text, and here first we make sure to change this constant layout to the relative layout. And now we need to add an image view. It will be match parent. Let's give ID to this. But here basically we will display our image, which is our, this story image. And just to make it unique, I think let's just give it some proper ID, image story. And then let's add the scale type for this to center crop. And let's share a source so that you can see how it will look. Okay. Content description, null. And after this, you need to add a linear layout quickly. Match parent. By the way, the orientation for this will be horizontal. And now inside this linear layout, we need to add two things. Hope you can see in Instagram, that is, when we click here anywhere, when you are displaying someone and we want to see someone's story. Okay, let's say I'm seeing my friend's story. So when I click on the left side, here, then basically it moves to the previous story. Okay, and if I click here on the right side, let's skip the current story and move to the next story. Hope you have seen this feature in Instagram. Okay, we will be displaying the same thing here. So we need to add here a view. It will be 0dp, and then it will be match parent. The height will be match parent. And let's close this. Also, let me just move it. Next thing is the layout. Weight, which will be 1, and let's give proper ID to our this view. So the ID for this will be reverse, which I already explained how it will work. Okay, That is, if a user, let's say, now when we add the other one, I will just tell again, what it means. Okay, let's add another view, and this one will be skip. Okay, now here you can see now, okay, this is our left side of the story. Whenever the user click in this area, whenever the user tap here, then we will basically move to the previous the previous story, okay? That is, we will display the previous story. And whenever a user click on this side, which is design side, we will move to the next story, which means to skip the current story and move to the next, to this very next story. Hope you understand the whole idea. Anyways, then here at the top, just like you guys see in Instagram, for each story, there is a tracker, okay, that tells us about the story time, that is line, or you can say the story progress bar or story progress view, okay? So in order to add that, we have to add a dependency for that, and that is basically clear this implementation com.github.shts capital S STORES stories, capital P ROGRESS progress VIEW, and this view is also capital, okay? So stories progress view. Hope you can see it, okay? 3.0.0. So make sure to use this same, okay, which is com.github.shts stories, S is capital, progress, P is capital, view, V is capital, 3.0.0. Then just click on sync now. And it shows this error. Let me just check. Okay, sorry, I forgot to add one more thing. Once you add this, okay, add this dependency and then go to the build.gradle, your project level build.gradle, okay? Not the module app. In the module app, just add this dependency and then come here to the build.gradle project, your project, okay, project level build.gradle file, and here we have inside this, let me just minimize this. Here you can see we have written this all projects, then the repositories, Google, just enter. And then here all you need is just to add this thing, okay? Maven, and inside this curly braces, okay? Inside this curly braces, just write URL, and then inside this double quotation, write https://jetpsc.io, which means jetpack.io, okay? And then try again. Again, run the sync. Now it will work. Okay, so you can see it. So yeah, it is now synced successfully. So once it is done, the next thing is to just come back here to the XML file, and after that we have to add our progress view. So in order to add that, you have to type jp, and this will appear, okay, jp.shts. Just click on that, and if I show you, then it will be this thing, this progress view, okay? The dependency that we add after that, this will appear, which is our progress view. Now you will understand it. Just like you guys see in Instagram, it is the same progress. So let's give it some width and then some height to it. 10 dp will be good. Sorry, the width will be much fat. Okay, just like this. And this is the height. And let's give some margin. Margin start will be here dp. And margin end will be at dp. Then gravity will be obviously top. And let us give some margin from the top. It will also be at p. So here you can see it. It will appear like this. And let's give ID to it. So the ID, for this will be stories underscore progress. Stories progress. Then we need to display alongside with the story image, we have to display the profile image of that person who have uploaded that story. Our friend image, let's say, the following. So we need to add a relative layout quickly to the rep content. And inside this, we need to add a circle image view. This will be rep content. Let's give ID to it. First of all, let's give margin to it from all sides, 10 dp. And then the ID for our circle image. So it will be our story underscore profile image. Story profile image, and change the width to 30 dp. Instead of that, let's change it to 40, because 30 is very small. And center vertical true. Let's add a source so that you can know how it will looks. Okay, just like this. Now here, if I show you, then we have to move this little bit down. So let's just give it some margin. Now it looks good. Okay, let's give it margin from the top 20 dp. Okay, and yeah, I just want to check this. So, and also change this to 25, and then copy paste this down below. Change this to margin from the left. From the left we have to give it add dp. Yeah, now it is okay. Now alongside with this profile image, we have to display the username of that person also. So we can say text view, rep content, text username, text color, hash, F means white color, text size 16 sp, center vertical true, to end of ID, and paste this ID here, just like this. Okay, and now let's just give it some margin now. Margin from the start 5 dp will be good. Okay, so that's it. Now let's give ID to this. So the ID for this will be story underscore username, story username. And now to the last thing is to add here basically a scene bar, okay, which will display the total number of viewers, and also a delete button. And when a user click on that scene number button, then it will display also the profile of the user who have seen your story. Now after this valid layout, we can add here a linear layout. Be rep content, orientation for this will be horizontal, and let's move this whole to the line parent bottom to true, and let's give ID to this, because if I see my friend stories, then this whole, these two, the delete button and this scene will not be visible to the other people, but only for the user who is an online user. And for your own story, you can see all the delete button and the total number of person who have seen your story, just like Instagram. So we can give this name as layout underscore scene. Let's add some background for this. So background for this will be #2 and then add 7 zeros. Okay, 7 zeros. Padding will be 4 dp and layout margin will be 10 dp. Now let's add inside this relative layout. So first of all, we will have our text view. Simple text view, wrap content. Seen by. The text color will be Android white, color white. The gravity, layout gravity will be center. And after this, we need to add another text view, which will display the total number of scenes. Okay, we will add it just after that. So, scene by 0, and let's give ID to it. So the ID for this one is scene underscore number, scene number, and then the text size 18 SP, text style will be bold, and the layout gravity will be, okay, we have already had that. As you can see, let's add the text color. Why the text color is already added. Okay, so we have had all the things. Sorry for that. And let's just add the margin from start 10 dp. So here you can see it will display like this. Now once you do this, the next thing is after this linear layout, we have to add another text view. So let's just copy this text view and paste that here. So the width, first of all, let's change the ID of this to story delete. Width will be 80 dp. Height will be the content, and text here will be delete. Margin, change this to margin right 10 dp, and margin bottom 10 dp. Line parent bottom to true. And let's move to the right side, so line parent and to true, just like this. Also, we need to add a background to it. So this is the word linear layout, the same background, which is this one, okay? Copy it, paste that here. And the gravity will be at center, which means to move the text to the center. By the way, change the text size to 16. Also, let's give it some proper height. 30 dp will be good, I guess, yeah. Let's change this to 35 dp. So now you can see we have a delete button, we have a scene by, and everything is okay for the design. Now next thing is to move to the story activity, and let's just first quickly complete our functions, okay, which is for the scene number, the total number of scenes. So what I'm going to do is let's just quickly create private fun, and this will be scene number, and it will take 2 parameters. One is the story ID, which will be of string data type. Let's create a reference. Firebase Database dot get instance dot ref dot child. Child will be our story node, and after that we will have a child which will as you know that for each user, the story is stored under his ID. So let's just quickly create a variable here at the top. We can give it name as which will be of string type variable, and let's give it name as current user ID, and it will be of type string. Okay, so colon string, and let's initialize it with a null. Now we have to assign it ID. So inside our own create, we can just say current user ID equals to Firebase auth dot get instance dot current user dot UID, and we are storing this ID in here, this variable, which is of string data type. And so you have to change this to variable var. Okay, so current user ID, and then pass this current user. Make sure to change this to variable var. And then here we can say current user ID, but this function will not get the online user ID, okay? So create a variable which is the current user ID, which means an online user ID, and one is let's create another variable which will just the user ID on which we will pass to our this story activity from our adapter, which is our story adapter, okay? So that, let's just give that name as user ID, and it will also be of string type. And as I told you, we will pass a value to our this story activity that we will store here in this variable. So in order to get that, we can say user ID equals intent dot get string x, and please make sure to use the same variable name, which is this one. Not the variable name, the key name. By using this name, we will pass the value from our adapter. So make sure to use this same spellings, okay? Which is user, capital I and D, user ID, okay? So once you do that, pass this user ID here, dot child story ID. And by the way, this is the variable that we are passing to this function as a parameter, which is our this story ID. And the views is not yet added in the database, but you will add it also, okay? So under that story ID, you will have a subchild which will be by the name views, that will contain views for each photo. VIEWS. Please use the same spellings, okay? Otherwise you will get confused. Add value interest. We have to add the listener for single value event object colon value event listener to curly braces, and then in here we have two functions, which is the on data change, remove comment, then the on cancel, remove the comment, and then in here we can say, basically here we will display our scene number. As you know that this, what I told you, this scene number function, we are going to display the total number of views. That is how many people view your story. So the total number. So by the way, it is not the function we are calling. Let's come here. I'm talking about this thing, okay? Which is scene number. Just copy this ID. Come here and then paste that scene number here, okay? And then import this. Import, okay? Dot text equals to add some space here. This empty quotation, and then add a concatenation sign after this. We can just simply say data snapshot, which is basically this thing, your dot get children count, dot children count. So this thing will basically return the total number of views and add this address, which is our views, okay? This whole address basically, which will contain the ID of that persons who have seen our image or photo, okay? And by the way, it's just for displaying the numbers. Also, we will display their profiles. But first, we have to go step by step. So in this method, we are displaying this. Also, let's add now that function, which will basically add a view at this address, okay? Which is under that view subnode. So let's also create that function quickly. So private fun add view to story. And it will also receive one parameter, which will be story ID, on which basically the user navigate. That is, let's say I navigate to my friend. That is, I click on my friend's story and I view it. So basically each story has their own unique ID. So for that, let's just copy this. Okay, we have already write the reference here. So Firebase database.getInstance .child story, .child user ID, .child story ID, .child views. And after this .child views, we have where we can add the current user ID, that is the online user who is going to view someone's story. So current user ID .set value to true. So hopefully now you get the idea of this story, okay? So let's say I just click on my friend story, okay? So I'm an online user, so it will add the view at this address under this view node, okay? It will add my ID with a value true. And then inside this scene number, we are retrieving the total number of views. So under that view node, where we are basically adding the views that say many people view my friend's story, okay? That is their friends, okay? So at this address, there will be total number of child, let's say 11, okay? So 11 people see that, so it will just get the children count. As you know, that children count basically return the total number of sub-childs at this location in the database under that view node, okay? And we are displaying it here on the scene number x2. So anyway, hope you get the idea now clearly. Also, we have to, we will display the user profile photo and the username. Now for this, we have already added a function on our on the story adapter. Just we have to copy paste that function. Where it is, this one. Just copy this and we will do changes according to the story activity. So just copy it from here, come back to the story activity and paste that here. It will receive only one parameter here, which is the user ID. Okay, that is, let's say I click on someone's story, so that person has their own ID, and which we are passing to our this story activity here. You can see it, okay? We will pass this from our story adapter. So anyways, let's just compute this function quickly. So .child user ID, if the PO exists, which means our snapshot exists, data snapshot exists. Because of .get load user .getMe, we have to display it on our view, on our profile, which is the ID for which is story profile image. So just copy this ID, come here, and then paste that here. And the next thing is remove this if statement from here. Next thing is to display the story name also. So story user name, copy the ID, come here and paste that here. Dot text equals to user dot get username. And if this show any error, okay, then all you're going to need is just to add these two non-asserted. Okay? Hope you understand. So this is our user info. Now we have to create a function where we will get all the stories, their images and story IDs, by which I mean simply that is, let's say a user will upload many stories. Let's say I upload 5 stories, okay? So for each story, there will be a time, that is for how much seconds you want to display it. And also, for single user, we have to manage all these things. So for that, what we're going to do is let's just get separate function, private function get stories, and it will receive, it will receive only one parameter, which will be of string type user ID. Also, let's create here at the top list images, which will be of type list. Initialize this with a null. And we will have another one in which we will have the story IDs. It will be of list type and initialize with another. So come back to the function, and here it is. Images list, and this our array. Same is our other one, which is our story IDs. Let's give this a proper name. Otherwise, let's add a list alongside the story IDs list, okay? So that we cannot get confused with that story IDs list. And now let's create a reference to our story node. I'm going to copy it from here. Reference dot add value event listener. Add listener for single value object Kotlin value event list. Images list as array list will receive string type data. Okay, first we have to make sure that it is clear. Same is for our story IDs. Story IDs list, and now by using for loop for each snapshot or not children of type story, which is our model class. Snapshot dot get value story. Oh, sorry, move down brackets. Story.java class.java. And current equals to system.current time. We have to add a condition in order to check the time. If the time is greater than dot get time start. And if the time current is less than story dot get time end, then we have to get the image, okay, the image URL, and store it inside our image list array list. So here you can say dot head story dot get image URL, and we will add the ID of it to our list, which is our story ID list array list. Okay, dot story dot get story ID. So once we add that one by one to our image list, all the images URL and their IDs to this array list, which is our story ID list, the next thing is story progress. You have to manage that. So let's create an instance of that as stories progress view. It will be of type stories progress. Initialize this with a null. And then in our on create, we can just say stories progress view equals to find view by ID or dot ID dot, and the ID for this is, you have to check this one, stories progress. Copy it, come back here and paste. Now come down to the function, and after this for loop for each, then say story progress dot set stories images list as list dot size. So whatever the total number of stories has been uploaded by this user, okay, that is, let's say this user uploaded 4 stories. So we have to get that, basically you have to get that, we are getting that, and we are adding this in our this array list, which is by name images list, and we are adding the IDs of it to this list, which is story ID list, okay, on the basis of which we will display progress view on that. So let's say if we have 4 stories uploaded by the same user and on the same page, that is, let's say one story start, let's say we will basically allow a story to view for 5 seconds, okay. You can also, I will tell you guys how to do it for more than 10 seconds, whatever you like. So anyways, for 5 seconds, it will move to the next story automatically, and then to the next and to the next. And let's say if 4 stories completed, then it will move to the next person, that is other person stories. So how you get the idea, okay? So basically that's why we are saying that, let's say if there are 4 stories for the same user, so we have to get their size. I mean, how much stories we have for the same person and also for the other one. I mean, we have to get it, that is from our friends. Stories progress view dot set story duration. Now how much we will do it for? 5000 L means I think long, okay. So for 5 seconds, okay. If you want to do it for like 10 seconds, I mean to display the story for 10 seconds, no, you need is just to change this 5 to 10. And let's say if you want for 20 seconds, then change this 1 to 2. You want just for 5 seconds, so 5000 L. And instead of this 6 will be good. 6 seconds, okay. So stories progress. Set story listener. This at the rate story activity. Now here, if you see this red line, okay, don't worry. I mean, you just here we need to just increment the on previous on next function, okay, that is to move to the previous activity and to the next activity. Or did she add the view? But first let's just complete this, which is the story dot start story, and here we have to pass the counter, okay, that is the counter. If you remember in the previous tutorial, we have done something here on our activity thing on the art story activity. Not here, but okay, we have not done that part yet, but we have to pass, I mean, on our notification, on our story adapter, we will basically add a counter that will count basically the story, okay. So for that, and that we will pass here to our this story activity. So for that, just like we are passing the user ID here to our the story activity, we will also pass that counter here. So let's just add that counter variable. We will initialize it with 0. Okay, and then here we have to receive it just like we receive the user ID. Okay, I will tell you this when we will be implementing that on our story adapter, okay. First let's just receive here. Now here we need to pass we need to create a variable first by the name counter, initialize it with a 0. And then come down here and pass that counter variable here. Now this will basically check the stories. That is, let's say one story passed and two story passed. Okay, we see the third story, fourth story, fifth story, and so on. Dot get dot no images list dot get, and here we have to pass that counter, and the non-inserted here. Then we have to display it into our this image view, the ID for which is image story. Copy the ID and paste that here. Now if you want, you can also add a placeholder. Let's say in case the photo is loading, retrieving from the database, then till then we want to display our placeholder, which is our driver dot profile. And after this we can call our functions, add view, then we can say story ID list dot get, pass the counter here. So let's say for story 1, it will have the counter 1 and it will have the ID, okay, counter, which means at the first index, second index, the third index. So at the images list, let's say at 0 index we have an image. So at 0 index in story ID list we have their story ID. Hope you get the idea. Same is for the second image and same is the second ID. That is at the second index we have their ID in the story ID and their images at the second index at the images list. So I hope you understand and get the whole idea. And now we have to call our other function, which is our scene number. So story ID list dot get counter. Now once it is done here, just come back and click on here. Okay, click here and you will see this red bulb. And if you here you can see let story activity implement interface story package view dot this, okay, which is basically these three function, which is on complete, on previous, on next. On complete means let's say I view the complete story, okay, then it will move to the next or to the previous. What you want to do in these things. So just select all these. You can also select all these, press okay. Let me tell you now. You can also implement it. If you do not want to implement it from there, you can just type on complete and it will appear like this. So I hope you understand. You can also just manually type it. That is, just write on and it will tell you all these on complete, on previous, on next. So anyways, clear the on complete, remove these comments from it first of all. Same from here. So for I already told you what this on next, on previous, on complete will do. Now since you know that, here in our on next, let's just come here first and from here, copy this 3 lines, okay, which is pick-off.get and then calling the add view story and scene number function. So let's copy it and come here to the on next. Now whenever we move to the next image, okay, whenever we move to the next image, we have to update our counter. Now, before we move, let me just tell you one more time this, okay, because it's important to understand this concept. Now, you know that, let's say we start at index 1, we have an image that is, let's say I log into my app, I just click on a story, I see my friend's story, okay, that is story number 1, let's say at index number 1. So the counter value is 1, which means index number is 1. At the images list, we have their image at index 1, and at the story list, we have the story ID at index 1 for that same image. Now we click on next, then we move to the next image. So their counter must be incremented. That is at the second index, we have the second image, okay, in the image from the images list, and their ID is also at the second index at the story IDs list. Same for the third image, for the fourth image, and so on. Okay, so we have to increment the counter. So for that, what we're going to do is just need these 2 braces, okay. I don't know what we call this, but add this and then increment counter, okay, plus counter. So it will increment the counter. So at the second index, we have the second image Okay, and since we initialize our counter variable globally at the top, so it will, automatically change the value to 2. So at the second index, we have the second image, and that image ID is at the second index at this array list, which is our story ID list. And we have already done all these things in our function when we have, which we done here, get stories. Okay, so we are getting for each image, for each story, we get their image, we store it inside the images list, and we get the ID of that image, and we store it inside our story ID list. Okay, so hope you now understand also the get stories and this whole thing. Hopefully you can understand it now. So once you do this, same thing we will do here. Do not increment it here, just remove the increment from here, because we'll have already incremented that there one time. So anytime the user click on next, it will just increase the counter, which means change the index to 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on. Because at the array list, we have images according to their IDs, okay, and their index number, okay. And the images list contain the images for each and every story, and their IDs are stored inside the story ID list. And also on previous, we will basically display the previous activity to the user. Now what we are going to do here? Here we want to decrement this. And since you know that once the story is seen by a user, there is no need to add the view to the story again. Okay, it will be already added. So only scene number, and we decrement, which means we just decrease the index by one number. So let's say a user move from story 4 to the story 3. So we will just change the index from 4 to 3, which means the counter. Okay, counter represents basically our index numbers for our array list, image list, and story ID list. And on complete, if we have seen all the stories, then we just want to finish. We just want to close our story activity and go to the home fragment. Automatically, we want to send the user to the home activity, just like you guys see in Instagram, okay? So we just want here to finish everything. Also, let's implement the built-in functions, which is the onDestroy and onResume, which means if the user minimize the app and if the user close the app, then in that case, what we want to do. So we have functions for that: onDestroy, onResume, and the other one is onPause. OnDestroy, which means if the user close the app, what we want to do, we just want to, or let's say, if the user close the app or by any means, let's say the app destroy, then we want to just destroy our story progress view. We do not want to display it, okay? So just destroy. And on pause, which means and the user minimize, or let's say the user open to application and the user minimize this Instagram, or you can say move to the second app. So it's basically on pause. By the way, you can also check the details for, if you want to know about this built-in function, which is on destroy, on resume, on pause in detail, just Google it. You will see about it. Okay, work these functions. And on resume, if the user come back to the app again, then in that case, we want to resume the story. Okay, so let's say the user moves to the, let's say the user open other app, okay, and minimize this app, then it will just pause the story. And then again, user come back to the app, and it will resume the same story. The progress view that will for each story. So this is just the short description which I give about the on-destroy, on-resume, on-pause. But as I told you, if you want to know about it in details, you can just Google it. But it is so simple and so easy, Now the next thing is that whenever the user click on any story and the view is created, which means inside the on create, what we want to do is that by default, this, we have to make this invisible, or this linear layout which contains this seen by and or this delete button. So for that, we have the ID for this linear layout scene. Just copy this ID, come here to the story activity, and inside our on create, what we want to do is just paste that here, and then we can say visibility And the visibility for this will be equals to view dot gone. Same as for our delete button. By default it will be gone, but first we have to copy this ID for story delete is story underscore delete, copy it, paste it here, because these two things will be visible only for a user who wants to see his own story. So in order to check that, we have to get a condition. If the user ID, if it becomes equals to the current user ID, which means an online user, but is the same user, it means that we have to display the layout screen visibility. Also is delete. So we will allow the user to use these two features. Okay. So layout scene will be visible. And also the delete will be visible. Also let's just make this invisible from here also. Since we have proper layouts of gone. And also come here to the layout, in your layout, visibility here will be gone. After this, let's just call our get stories function, and it means the parameter we have to pass user ID to it. And also let's just call our user info function, which needs the user ID as a parameter. And now the next, thing is to implement the feature for the next, okay? For this tab, okay, from the previous and for the next for this views basically. So we need to access that here. So we can just say, let's give it this name reverse, and it is of type view. And let's just initialize this here, or dot ID dot BID for this one is reverse, as that here. Reverse dot set on click listener. And here we have to say stories progress view dot reverse. Then we have to call our reverse function. And then we have to implement also our own touch listener for it. So anyways, for that we can say reverse dot set on touch listener on touch listener. By the way, we will implement this thing. Let's just come here to the top. After this, we can say well, on touch listener equals to view dot and this one, okay, which this curly brace starting from curly brace on touch listener curly brace, and here you can see motion event, okay, view parameter, and then in here return false, just write false. And now we have to add a when condition. If here is the event which represents this motion event basically. If motion, and let me tell you, you can change the name of it to anything, okay? And some of you guys, maybe these two parameter appears like by different names. So you have to use that names only, okay? So motion event, if that motion event is, dot act. Now we have two type of actions here. If the motion event dot action down, then in that case, what we want to do. And if we have the other one, which is the motion event dot action up, if the action is up, need to create here a variable press time equals to 0. And also we need to create another variable by the name limit. Initialize this with 500L. And now come down here, and here we can say that if press time equals to system dot current story progress view dot pause. return false. Now then we just copy paste this down here, and here we need to create a variable by name now equal to this dot resume, and it will return limit less than now minus press time. And now come down here, and here he can pass the on touch listener to it. The same we will do for skip. You just copy paste this and give this name as skip, and the ID for this is different, which is skip. Copy and paste the ID here. So skip dot set on click listener storage Firebase view dot call the function skip here, and then skip dot set on touch listener on touch listener. Now we have to basically display the, if a user click on the total number of followers, we will display that person profiles, just like we display the following list, the followers and the likes, okay? Who's these persons are who view basically my story, let's say. So if you remember, I told you guys one thing. If you go to the followers activity, sorry, not the follower, the activity where we basically write the code for all the followers, for the likes and all these things, which is basically our show users activity. At that time, I told you guys that we are adding this thing, okay, views. You are adding these views, and when we implement the stories for displaying the views, we will use this, okay? And you also create an empty function for that. We have not implemented the code, obviously, now, but now is the time to implement that, okay? So here the user click on this button, which is basically our scene, our number, for displaying the total number of user, okay, which is the layout scene, and the layout scene is visible. If I show you, I'm talking about this thing, okay, scene number. That is, let's say my story is seen by 15 people. So if I click on that 15, it will display me all these 15 people profile. That is, who are these persons? Who these persons are. So copy this scene number, and okay, and then come back to the show story activity. First of all, let's just set a listener on it. Not set on click listener. And here we have to pass the user, to send the user to follower activity alongside with the user ID and the title, okay? Because here on the base of title, it is displaying these functions, okay? So just for the time saving, come here to the user adapter. From here, I just want to copy this code, okay, which is for the intent. And then, so let's just paste that here, and we are on the story activity. We want to send the user it is story activity, and we want to send the user to the activity which name is show user activity. And it needs two parameters, as you know that. So we have to pass the ID, okay? We have to pass the story ID alongside with it, and also the title. Three parameters, three things we are going to set. So story ID list counter, and the last one is the title. So title make sure to use the same spellings, okay, that we are using here. And as you know that we are receiving the ID and title by the same name, okay, on which we are sending from here. And then start activity for the intent. Also, we have to receive the No, we just need the ID and title. So anyways, once you receive that here, I'll show you the activity. You have to display all those users. So we have to write the code for it here. So just for the time saving, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this code from here. Then come back here and paste that inside this get use function. So reference. The reference is up to the story node. .child ID. We have to get our story ID that we are passing here, which is this thing, okay? Story ID. In order to get that, all you're gonna need is just copy this intent, paste that here. And we have the title, we have given, sending it by the name story ID. So story.child ID, which represents the user ID. Under that, we have the story ID, that specific story which has the views, okay? .child views, which represent the total number of viewers. So we are going to represent only that person. So views, make sure to take care of the node's name, okay? Starting from small v, and we are using this also, this reference here by this name when we add the view. So that's why I told you guys to use the same spellings and same thing. Otherwise, if you even write capital V, then it will not help you because it will get different, okay? If you write different name for it, then you have to use that different name also here. So that's why I told you guys to use the same name so that we cannot get confused with it, okay? Views on the same name, we are, on the scene number, we are retrieving the total number of viewers, and we are adding the view to the story by the same address, by the same reference, sorry, okay? Here you can see it. So anyways, this is our child views, and now on this reference, we retrieving the data and we are adding it into the ID list, and then we call our show user function. So that's it. So once you do this, now next thing is to just delete the story. For user, click on the delete button, which is where this one, story delete. So let's just copy the ID and just quickly add up this now on it. .set on click listener. So let's just quickly create a reference to our story node. I'm going to copy it from here instead of writing it. Come back here and then just press that .child story ID list counter, and then we have to using this reference, we can say reference dot move back. And if you want, you can add on complete listener in order to, and it get deleted. Then we will display a message to the user. So you can say task. If the task is successful, then in that case, we want to display a message. Toast.make this story activity, and the message will be deleted successfully, whatever the message you want to write here. Toast dot length long dot show. So yeah, that's it. This is all about our stories. For displaying the stories, basically story image alongside the user information on when the user click on the left side of the story, on the right side of the story, and if the user want to delete the story. So yeah, that's it for this video, and in next video we will complete this app, which means that we will also complete this story feature. After this story feature, our app will be completed. So we will do that in the next video. So till now we just implement that, to display the stories. Now we have not yet displayed it on our home fragment and add a click event on it. And also we have to differentiate between the user own stories and also the other user stories. So that thing we will be doing in the next video tutorial on our story adapter. So that's it for this video, and see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.